Hi, good afternoon, guys. Can you hear me? Hi, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me? Okay, so I welcome you all to today's live coding session, and this will be the second live coding session for um the stage B for the DevOps track. So, as I stated last week for the last live coding session, if you are around or if you saw the recording online, this stage is just yes, the second and the last one for this stage. So we have two live coding sessions per stage. So there will be another two for stage C, another two for stage D, and so on. Um, so as I stated in the last live coding session, this stage is just an introductory stage. So there are not a lot of things that we can showcase of sorts in this stage because it's just trying to introduce the concept of what DevOps is and how these things are integrated into one another. Now we try to like make developments, the workflow for development go what continuously and seamlessly. So what we'll be showing today is basically what you guys will be um focusing on for the next stage is basically one of the things you guys will be focusing on for the next stage. So this will just be like a regular introduction, or let me just say a brief, very, very minor little introduction to Git actions. So what we're going to be talking about today is Git actions. And I don't know, I think I saw a few guys have started completing their quiz, their tag along code, I mean. So for the tag along code, this is not like stage A where the tag along code is linked to the quiz. So the tag along code is different from what you will see in the quiz. And the tag along code is just a basic introduction to GitHub. So one of the things that you will notice in your tag along code when you're working is that you see that for every action you make for your GitHub repository, there is an action that you know initiates that is going to happen. So when you guys, if you haven't started your tag along code, when you eventually start to do that, you realize what I'm saying. You see what I'm saying. So there'll be your tag along code will have like a list of steps. So you see that for every once you complete the previous step and it works successfully, the next step on your readme will be expanded automatically for you when you refresh that page. So the mechanism that is in charge of making that thing work that way, where you don't have to be the one to expand the next section, where the next section is expanded for you already, that is one of the things that Git action can provide to us. So that mechanism is done with Git action, and even after you complete all of the steps of your code, when you click on the actions page for the Git actions, you see a set of list of different actions that have been taken, and if they run successfully, they'll be in green, and if they do not, it will show a red identifier to show that the action is not run successfully. So we'll be working on Git action today. Just a very simple and basic introduction. So once again, this live coding session might not even take up to an hour. So it'll just be a short thing. So starting from next week, we'll start dealing on more stuff where we have to start doing a little bit of more coding, where the live coding sessions can last an hour, 30 minutes. So one thing I want to say is that when you have a question, you can just unmute your mic and immediately ask your question. So the way it works is I'm the one that is writing the code and also moderating the session. So I might, when I leave the page for the Zoom meeting, so I might not really see when you drop a chat or when your hand is raised for a question. So you can just unmute your mic and then ask the question. For those that are joining via YouTube, so I will go to the YouTube page to check your question if you have any, but it might not be in real time. But I will definitely make sure that before the section closes, in case there are any questions on YouTube, I'll make sure to attend to them also. So I should start sharing my screen now. Okay. Is it this? Yes, I think it's this. So this is. I hope you guys can see my screen. Just to confirm, can you guys see my screen? No one is saying anything. No. All right. Thank you for that. So you can see if you can see my screen, then let me continue. So this is basically the repo you'll be working with for your tag along project. And what I was just trying to show you guys was that when you start doing some items, you can see that I'm coming to this page. This page is showing finished. Finished here is showing that you are in the last section. So, but when you follow this step that are here, what you should see expanded when you are starting should be this step one that will be expanded. So immediately you complete all of the steps that are outlined in step one and you refresh this page, you see immediately that step one would be collapsed and then step two will get expanded for you automatically. So the mechanism that is able to help us make sure that these steps are expanded automatically is one of the power that Git Actions provide to us. So I believe in the organization. Let me just go to my own page and just so I'll create a new repository. So what we'll just be doing today is a very very simple introduction. As I've stated previously, you guys will be doing more of this for the next life code for the next stage where we'll talk more, deal more on what more functionalities of Git actions and what they can provide to us. So this is just a basic understanding. So if you understand Git actions, you'll be able to, because for most of the stuff we'll be working for stage C and stage D, Git actions will play a heavy part in whatever it is that we are doing. So I'm on my dashboard now. So I'm going to create a new repository. So the owner is going to be the person now. So I'm going to call this LCS2. Let me call this DO 423 LCS. Okay, stage B LCS. So this is our new repository. So all of these are optional to be public. Add a readme now, most likely just to do something, and then let's create the repository. So this is creating a new repository, and for everyone that submitted the stage A quiz, you must have done this at one time or the other, because you created a repository and then uploaded your submission for the stage A. You uploaded your submission, and that submission was what the link to the GitHub profile for that submission was what you provided to us. The deadline for this stage is Tuesday next week. So please, if you are behind on your course content, you can try to read up more on them and then try to go through the quiz. And also you can try to submit your tag along before then, because the deadline is 11:59 and there will be no extension for the deadline. So you can just try to make sure you find time to go through your course content. It's a bit bulky, you understand, but just try to go through the course content and um, attempt the quiz and then submit your tag along project. So now that the tag along project is not linked to the quiz, so you can take your quiz first and then create another time for your tag along project. So as expected, we'll be coming into the actions tab. So this is the Git actions. Just before we create a new one, let me just probably show you. Let me try to show you. This is one of our repo, one of the things that we're working on in our currently. So if I click on the actions tab, you see a lot of actions. So this workflow, it has 92 runs. So we've run this workflow a lot of time. So this workflow is when actions are set up, it's a way to automatically just keeping in line with the continuous integration and continuous deployment. So automatically know if there's an issue that you have to fix. One of the main use cases for action is when a pull request is made. So the way it works in organization is that when multiple people are when multiple guys are working on a code on a project, so different people are making their different changes, and you create a pull request. Your pull request needs to be merged before it is deployed and stuff like that. So trying to like test the changes that are made by each person, doing all of this manually, testing the change, integrating the change that they have done to the code base, and doing all of those stuff. It can be a little bit, it's not, it can be, it is tedious for whoever is in charge of, or whoever is in charge of maintaining that code base, or whoever is going to be in charge of combining all of the different code that each developer is working on, and then deploying this code to whatever environment it is meant to be deployed to. So Git action is the way to streamline this process and make it automatic. So what will just happen is that with Git action there can be tests. So probably when we are going our next live coding session, there'll be unit tests. This was what we did for, I think, 2 quarters ago. The live coding session for State C was a unit test live coding session with Git action. So we can just probably try to implement something a bit more complex, but we'll integrate that concept. So as I was saying, so for that, using this as an example, so let's say different people are working. So immediately someone creates a pull request, there can be Git actions that will work immediately to test the changes that this person have made in his own pull request from his branch. So when you test the changes that this person has made, then there will be criteria for that test to pass or for that test to fail. So based on the Git action, when this here showcases an X, that means that the test that you ran, it failed. So immediately you, the creator of the action, you are notified that this change that this person made will not be easily integratable to the main code base, number one. And the guy that also made the pull request is also notified via email that the latest pull request you have made, we ran this action on it and it failed. So you have to do what? See what's failed and then fix it. So when you're able to make your pull request pass all of the tests that are existing in that action, that's when the person in charge of deployment will then see that, okay, that's the DevOps guy in this case that is in charge of deploying to whatever environment they want to deploy to, will then be notified based on those actions that, okay, time for deployment. Why? Because these actions have passed. So that's one of the key use case for Git actions, and that is like a very, very simple example of what Git actions brings to us. So it brings that power to be able to extend and automating a lot of this process that used to be manual in the former mode of operations and deployment. So this is something that we worked on. So we created the action and all of this stuff. So this action, you keep editing an action. So we have had some action. This one is went through successfully. On the next one, this did not one. On the next one, then the next one ran successfully. So the actions will always be there as long as the action file does not change. That's the workflow. It's called workflow, state action, whatever it is. As long as it doesn't change, it would not. You get. So if I go into one of this workflow now, then you start to see different things. So this is the determine, and this is the build, this is deploy. So these are called jobs and all of this stuff. So when you start your stage C, all of these concepts are things that you will see and they'll be explained, each of them. So how to create workflow. So going back to the new repo that we just created. So let me go to my repositories. Show more. So this is my first personal repository. All of the repositories that we create, exactly, they're always belonging to the company. So this is the first section. So I'll come here to this action. So there are two ways to create actions. The easiest way, when you're creating the workflow yourself. So you just click on this, set up a workflow yourself. When you click on set up a workflow yourself, then it gives you this YAML file. So this YAML file is where you are going to create the action. So one thing you should notice is that you can see that this is the name of the repo we created. So just as usual, when you are navigating files, if it's on Windows system, any PC you are navigating file, you can see that. So you can see this as a folder, .github folder. So inside the .github folder, there's another folder called the workflows folder. So under the workflows folder, there's now a folder that is called the main.yaml. So you can have multiple You can have multiple workflows, and immediately you create a workflow, immediately you create a workflow, when you go back to the actions tab, you will not see that option for you to what create a workflow. So for you to add more workflows to your code base, you have to navigate to this .github/workflows/ and then create another YAML file. So YAML is just the syntax for which we write workflows. So YAML is a very, very widely used syntax. It's used for declarative programming in a way, not even programming, it's just declarative statements where you declare what you want. You don't like say that if you don't have some of all of these conditions, you declare that okay, this should be true. So when you declare that this is true, as long as that value 2 doesn't change in that YAML file, it will always be true. So YAML is a declarative syntax that is widely used. You interface with it a lot for a lot of stuff, and even other CI/CD tools. So the name of the next year that you guys will be going is CI/CD. So even other CI/CD tools that you guys will be working with, they actually try to fork out from YAML syntax for them to have whatever it is that, sorry, for whatever syntax it is that they are giving to you. So the first workflow that I'll be creating is a very, very simple workflow, and it will not contain much because, as I stated previously, the workflow the workflow is basically for the next stage. So the first thing I'll be doing is I'll be saying the name. So this is going to serve as the name of the workflow. So the name of the workflow will be stage B tests workflow. Let's just start with that. So normally when you are working, you shouldn't do this here. You actually do it in any code editor you use. I use Visual Studio Code. So after completing the workflow in the Visual Studio Code, then I'll push it to the what? I'll push it to the repository. But this is just for showcasing purposes. So so this is the on keyword. So all of these keywords is just like if you have any experience with any programming language, well, for you to be able to get to this stage, that means you must have worked on Python. So I can assume that you have a bit of experience with Python. You know that there are some variables, or there are some things in Python that they are created by Python. For example, things like if, or words like else, words like def, words like class, words like main, all of those kind of stuff. They are like they are keywords in Python that you cannot change, or if you change them, you cause an issue to the runtime for that particular Python runtime. So that's basically an example of what we are talking about in this YAML file also. So these are the keywords that are recognized, and if you use a keyword that isn't recognized, you run into what? An error. So the on keyword is what we use to I'll say tab. So the on keyword is what we use to define when this workflow will run. So when this workflow will run, that's when we decide that okay, if this particular event, so when you define on, you will see that there are different events that you can define under this on. So more of this will be spoken about in the next live coding session, but I will say the one of the best one to put there is the workflow dispatch, SPATCH. So when you do the workflow dispatch on, this gives you the option to be able to run your workflow manually. So what I mean by running your workflow manually, I'll speak on that a little bit later. So workflow dispatch, then so after doing that, then the next thing we are going to be saying is jobs. Okay, so JOBS. So this is another keyword, and the jobs, you see what, when I showed you the last action, I think you saw one called determine environment, you saw another one called build, you saw another one called deploy. So those are the jobs, and these are like the different tasks that you want to run in that workflow. So let me call this. So under these jobs, I'll give this one, I'll call it job 1. Job 1. Okay. So for this one called job 1, so for every job, you need to give your job what it runs on. So there are things in workflow actions called runners. So it's just like you running a code. You can't just run a code on thin air. There have to be like a platform for which you're using to run the code. So your actions are actually you writing a piece of code that is run in a particular place. So those runners, this is where you define what runner you want to use. So you can have custom runners. Most times in an organization, you build custom runners. Custom runners can be Docker applications. We also talk about Docker during this for this internship for the CICD. Talk about Docker where you containerize your apps and bundle them. So your runner can be a containerized Ubuntu or a containerized Windows even. So depending on whatever it is that you are more familiar with, so you containerize it and then deploy your Docker container somewhere. So there are ways to create custom runners. So is that your custom runner that you will now use in this place whenever you want to run this code? So this gives you more ability to define more granular things that your actions can do. You get, because you can start to install some command line apps or some things on your runners that you'll be able to use when you're writing your workflow. So more of this you read on when you are going through the next stage. But the easy one is Ubuntu. So this one latest. So this one is provided to us by GitHub. So they have a runner, a public runner available to everybody that uses Ubuntu. So this public runner is available to, as long as you have a GitHub account and your account can run a workflow, you can use the Ubuntu latest. So for each job that you define, each job can have what unlimited number of steps. So after saying that, okay, I want different jobs in the workflow, then for each job, so for the job one, there have to be like steps that will be performed for what? For job one. So the first step that I'll be performing, so I'm going to give this step a name. So the name is printout welcome. Let me just do it, print welcome. Okay, I wanted this to be slash. So the name is print welcome, and the name is print welcome, and what this is going to do is that it's going to run echo welcome. Okay, so this is like a very, very basic skeleton of what a git action is. So this is one step. So just to make it easy, let me add another step. So let me say is print hello. This is another step, and what this step does is that it print hello. So what this runs, so this one is like you giving it a command, because if you are conversant, it's just like you saying, just as you have said you want to use an Ubuntu latest. So when you say you want an Ubuntu latest, then in Ubuntu has a terminal. Every Ubuntu operating system they are going to be working with, it has a terminal, yes. So that terminal that you are working with, you can run commands on that terminal. So that's basically what this one here is saying. So you're telling GitHub that on this Ubuntu latest here, run this so and so code. So yeah, let us say that we want to run echo print hello. Okay, so if you have an issue with your syntax, that's one of the benefit of typing your workflow here, is that immediately you have an issue with your syntax, it will tell you. For example, if I remove this, you see that it has highlighted here and it's telling me that this value cannot be known. So it's trying to tell me that this cannot work. If you commit these changes, this code will commit into the repository, but your workflow will tell you that there's an error at so and so line. So when you're typing on GitHub automatically links. What this is doing is it's called linting. So it automatically links your code and check for any error, at least based on the standard for which that syntax was created. So based on the standard for which writing an action was created. So this is linting and telling us that, okay, I think you might have an issue with this. So check it out. If you commit this code, it will work fine, but you are going against, this should give you an error. That's basically what this is doing. So I'm going to commit these changes, So create YAML, all of this, commit directly to the main batch, and then I'm going to commit this change. does not have the parts. Workflow. Return to repository overview. So what's the issue? So okay, so you can see that it has been created. So GitHub does workflows and this. So if you come to the repository now, you see that automatically this what's wrong with this network? I hope I'm still on air. Exactly. So if you come back to the home page, you can see that now it was only the readme that was there before, but now there's a folder called .github, and this folder also has what workflows into it. So if you come back to this action tab, you will see now that stage B test workflow is now here. And when we came here before, what are you saying? You were saying that there's a place to what create a new action or do something where we clicked on create a new action. But now we don't have that here anymore. So the only thing we can do if we want to create a new action is to come here, go into this folder where the former workflow is, and then click on you add a new file. So when you create a new file in this folder, then it will come out here as the action. So for us to now see this action working, so you can see that this workflow has a workflow dispatch event trigger. So remember when I defined that on keyword, I said that if we had not put the on keyword, you would have seen that we do not have the opportunity to do what. If we had not put that on keyword, we would have not had the opportunity to be able to run this workflow manually. So there would have had to be an event that triggers the workflow automatically. But because we know that, okay, we want to be able to run this workflow manually to see whatever it is that we have done, that is why we have this. So now I'll be able to click on one. So I'll select the branch as the main branch, and then I can run this workflow. So if everything is okay, this workflow, sorry, it takes some time to load. So you can just keep refreshing this page. So this workflow has started already, and it was run manually by me. So if I click on it while it is still running, so it takes some time, but it takes some time for it to load. But immediately the workflow is done, then your loading comes back to normal. So you can see that we had job one, and job one has what run successfully. So we did not define this setup job. Setup job is automatically done by GitHub to set up your Ubuntu system that is going to be in charge of your code and all of those stuff like that. So you click on the setup job. So this is operating system. So this way you can see this is operating system. The operating system is Ubuntu. So if you had provided another operating system, this is what would have worked. And all of these are just some other stuff that you see as we go on in the stage. But this is our first job. So for our first job, what did we name it? We named it print welcome. So what happened? It's what we just ran echo welcome. So you can see that this is the shell. So this is it telling the shell that okay, in our runner, that is the Ubuntu, get the shell bash and then run this code /e and run whatever it is. So that's why I can see that this has printed out welcome. If you go to the other job, run echo hello, you can see that hello has been printed out. Hello was printed out, and then complete job, this is just cleaning up the process. So the setup job and the complete job are things that are implemented by Google automatically, and they run all of this. So those are the job working as expected. So now we can now go into that workflow and make some edits. Yes, so let's go back to this page here and then make some edits to this stuff here. So let us try to see what else we can do to make this. So let us add another. So I have to click here to edit this file. Let us add another job. So now we want to add another job. So that's the issue of writing here. So when you are writing in this, it will be a little bit hard for you to, because YAML is very picky. It's very picky. So it does not like when your indent is just like Python. It does not like when your indent is not what the way it expects it to be. So that's one of the issues we have when we are writing on GitHub editors like this, because writing here will give you an issue, because you have to now start manually making sure that the indentation you used is correct and all of those kind of stuff. So hopefully my Olusunuku will be able to run this. So this is job 2. I'm going to give a tab once more. So job 2. So every job, for every job you create, it needs where it is going to run on. So the job 2 is also running on what? Ubuntu latest. Let's pick this up here and then paste this. So when this comes in, now that this has come in, so I'm now going to list out all of the steps that this job 2 will have. So the first step is going to, what can we print again this time? Print, okay, print stage. So this one is going to run. Okay, I forgot something here. So this should be here exactly. So this, I don't need another one now. Exactly. So this is going to run echo currently in stage B. And then the next one, let us give this one print stage name. Then this is going to run echo currently, sorry, stage B is introduction to DevOps. Okay, so if this is good, then we can commit this change. So we're going to call this update.yaml. So commit this change. So when we commit this change now, if we now go back to our action page and stage B test workflow. So if we decide to run this workflow, so now we should have 2 jobs that are going to be running. So let's just refresh this page. So now this is running already. So you can see now that we have what? Job 1 and job 2. And job 1 and job 2, they are running what? Simultaneously. So job 1 and job 2, they run concurrently. Why? Because we did not tell you that, okay, job 1 and job 2, there's any relationship with them. So since there's no relationship between them, they are running concurrently. So if we go into job 1, you see that job 1 prints out hello and welcome as expected. If we go into job 2 is now printing out the stage. So currently in stage B, and print out the stage name. Stage B is introduction to DevOps. So now let us go back to our workflow. And now let's try to add um an automatic where we don't have to do it manually. Okay, so if we go into how to do that now, so we're now going to go back into our on. So let's edit this. So apart from saying on workflow dispatch, so workflow dispatch can be there. You can define multiple events for your own. So another event that I want to define is push. So since we want to define more than one now, so I think we have to now start using this. Say that, okay, this is more than one. So the next one is going to be push. So since now we are using push, so when you are saying push, you need to specify what branch. When you are using push, you need to specify what branch that when that branch is pushed to is going to what is going to initiate. So I'm going to call this here branches. So after specifying the branches, then you now write the name of the branch here. So the branch that we're talking about is going to be the what? The main branch. So this main branch, for better linting, let us just make it this way. So there's still an error. Invalid values, object. So it's saying I have an error. So let me see if I do this and see if that will fix it. You know. Let me see. A multi-line. Okay. or workflow. This is one of the issue we have with LinkedIn and stuff. So just to, for the sake of this live coding session, I'm just going to remove the workflow dispatch for now, and then I'm going to use only the push. So now this will only work when we make a push to the main branch. So, but it's possible to ensure that you have the workflow dispatch and then automatic deployment. So when we are working on it, will be spoken about in the next live coding session, and it will be sorry in the next stage. So it's something that we might probably incorporate later, but is definitely possible to do so. So now we have specified that anytime there's a push and the push to the branch is main, that's when you should do this. So to see this work in, let us just commit this change first. So update so let's commit this change. So if we go back to the action file, you should see, because we are just exactly, you can see now that I did not have to come and say manually. There's no button for manual again. But stage B test workflow is running automatically. Why? Because the fact that I'm updating the YAML file is also an update to the what? To the main branch. So yeah, the stage has what? It ran successfully, and all of these two were what? Were run. So just to show you something, if I come here now and create a new branch, if I create a new branch, as usual, let's call this the dev branch. And I create this new branch from the dev branch. So if I come to this code now, if I go to action, nothing, Abi. If I come here to this dev branch, so when I come to this dev branch, let me edit the readme for the dev branch. So let me edit this file for the dev branch. So let me add something. So this is readme. I don't know if you not, readme is written in markdown. So markdown is another, it's just like saying another way for writing HTML. So this is the edit to dev. So when we create this, when we commit this change, we are committing this change where we are committing it directly to the dev branch here. So let's commit this change. Immediately I commit this change, our code, you can see if I come here to the code now for the dev branch, this edit is here. But if I go to the actions, no workflow was run. You can see we have just what? We still have just 3 workflows that have been run. But if I come back to code now and move from dev, let me go from dev to main, and let me edit the readme just to cut a git merge issue. But but I just want to showcase something. So normally you should not do this. So instead of using that, let me use this time around 2 underscores. So this is the edit. You can see that using 2 underscores here, and in that one I used 2 asterisks, but it's because of underscore and asterisk, when they come on both sides of the text, it changes the text to italic, so they can be used interchangeably. So this is the edit to the main readme file. Okay, so when I commit this change, update readme.md, I commit it directly. I see now I'm committing directly to the main branch. If I commit this change and I go into the actions, you see immediately that we have 4. Why? Because the commit that we made was made to the way to the main branch. And when we're defining our workflow, we told our workflow that it should only run when a commit was made to the was made to the main branch. And you can see that our job is running, and both jobs are running as expected for both of them. So that is a way to like have the commit. So this is just a basic understanding, because normally based on whatever it is you commit, you should have some interaction with whatever it is you are committing, with whatever it is, with whatever job it is they are doing. So let me just try to showcase probably 2 more functionalities, and then we'll be done for this live coding session for today. So I think I've showcased that already, so I can delete this dev branch. Let me delete this dev branch. Or there's only I can be doing that when I'm clearing up later. So let's go back. We're in the main branch. Let's go back into our workflow. So when we now go back into our workflow, so I want to define something now where we will now see that this will stop our workflow from running concurrently, because the idea is when you have multiple jobs, you want them to go sequentially, 1 2 3 4, so they should not all be working together. So to be able to showcase that one of your job, the other job needs a keyword that is called needs, needs. So when you provide this, you need to provide the name of a previous job that you have done. So if I say this is job one, okay, so that's the first thing. You see that now when we run this code, the um the when we run this action, the two jobs will not run concurrently, but what will happen is that the two jobs will do what? The two jobs will the first job will run, and then the second job will run right after. So once I do this, so I'm going to commit this directly into the branch as usual, commit this change. So once I've committed this, so immediately I go to the action. Once I click on this now, you see that now they're not running concurrently. Job 2 will not start until job 1 has finished. So immediately job 1 shows us that it is successful, that is when job 2 will start. But as long as job 1 is still in the waiting phase, job 2 will not start. So that is because of what we have added a need to job 2. So we have said that job 2 needs job 1 to before job 2 can start. So once this is done, so if we go back, if we go to the summary, you see that this before they used to be what in a vertical arrangement, but now they are what in a horizontal arrangement, showing that when this is done, we move on to this one, and then we move on to the next one. So that's a basic example of what we can do with Git actions. Open the action file again. All right, so to open the action file again, okay, I think I've opened it again after that time, but this is
Yes, it's okay. It's okay.
all right. So that's a very, very basic overview of what Git actions bring to us. So when you go into the next stage, you see much more. And the tag along code for next stage will deal a lot more on we did a lot more on Git actions. And to be fair, just to like say, should I say give a precursor now, you might have to like do some manual edits the action, because when we are working, we cannot create everything from scratch. We're using some of this stuff from Google and stuff. So all of these things, they have been updated. So some of the codes or some of the action versions that we used when we were creating this course, some of them have been updated to take away some of the functionality that we used. So but you can definitely work through it, and I'll be on hand to always guide you through every step. So Dimeji.
Okay, so thank you. My own action is not running. It's just showing red X. I don't know what I'm doing
A
wrong.
red head. Okay. It's most
I don't think
likely, yes, it's most likely when you have something like that. I will give you the opportunity to share your screen now. But when you have something like that, it's most likely an issue of syntax. That's when you're working with this place. So just to showcase that, if I come here, for example, and do something, let me just do this and specify name. Okay. So let me specify name, and I'm not going to, you see that it's giving me this stuff. But let me commit this. As I said previously, to commit, the fact that is telling you that that can be an error doesn't mean that it's not commit. So once it's commit, if I go to my action, automatically the action will show me this red that is trying to tell me that what this action is not going to work. Why? Because there's an issue. So if you go into the action, it will tell you invalid workflow file. So if you have an invalid workflow file, it will tell you the line and the column where there's an issue. So you can see now that just from reading this, I'm able to say that, okay, this workflow is not valid. Why? Because in line 29 for column 9, there's an unexpected value of name. So when you know the syntax, you know the reason why you're having that issue. So can you check this on your end to see if you have something like that on your action that is not working, first and foremost?
Yeah, I can see that there's you have an error in your Yami syntax at line 9.
Line 9, exactly.
Okay,
So you
check
can
it
go into line
now.
9.
I
and
don't
check.
think
But
that.
as I stated earlier, working on this, working with GitHub directly is not the best thing, because it is not easy for you to align your code, yeah, syntax wise and indentation wise. So that's why when we're working for the next workflows, we'll be working on Visual Studio Code. We'll be making a push and then switching to
So yeah,
the.
I don't know. I don't know if I can share my screen. I'm
Yeah,
still
yeah,
on.
yeah. Let me just
I'm
give
not.
you that.
Yeah.
So you can share your screen now. I think I have to stop my sharing though.
I don't know
Okay.
if it's on my screen.
Yes, I can see it. So what line did you say you have
This is
an
line.
error on?
This is line 9.
So this is the issue. Your steps is meant to be directly under the run zone.
Oh,
Your
okay.
steps is meant to be directly under the run zone. So yes, you can just take that. Yes. So just take that
Okay.
a step
Okay.
backwards. So when you take that a step backward, I think the other one is okay. Exactly. So shift and tab. So with this, your workflow should be fine.
I'll go to actions, right?
Yes, actions. So you can see that it is running now, the yellow bar.
So I can open it.
Yeah, you can click on it. So that's job one running, and then job two running also. So it might not show, so it might just, you can just reload this page, F5 or something, or just click on the refresh button. So
Okay. All right. Thank
exactly.
you.
So you can see now that it has come up on the left hand side, even though it is still showing as loading on the tab. So when you refresh the page, it works. All right,
Thank
no
you.
problem. You're welcome. So is there any other question or um something that I have to attend to? Because that should be the end of today's live coding session. So if you have any other, as I said, it is actually enough for this stage. My name is Owolabi. I'm one of the employees for Amoye. So we run this internship together. You can just call me Owolabi. Owolabi is fine. Um So as I've stated previously, you can just, this what I'm showing now is not actually for this stage, but it's a precursor. So we'll be able to do something better and bigger for the next stage. So in the next stage, I'll probably do some preparation beforehand, because the kind of person I am is, when I'm doing live coding sessions, I don't like preparing too much beforehand. I always like to show how it is like in real world scenario. So you see me working with a new repository or something like that. I always like to do that beforehand to ensure that, okay, to show that I can also run into mistakes, edit the code online and stuff like that. But when we want to do something bigger, which I'm trying to plan that we'll do for the next live coding session, so we'll be working with a bit of more functionality where we'll be getting the name of the branch, for example. So we'll work with multiple branch, we'll get the name of the branch, print out what the title of the commit that is coming in. We also try to like do some changing of files to the current to, like, let's say for example, we can try to change the readme. So if I those are the kind of things that you'll be interfacing with when you are working for your tag along for the next stage. So we'll just be doing simple examples of that as tag along, so that it will be easier on you guys when you are doing that. So just before I go, let me just share a tab again. So in the meantime, because as I stated previously, this stage is just an introductory and stuff. So for every action, if I just go back into, let me go to the one that I created, the one that I was showing you just now. Okay, not this. I want to go to our organization. Okay, let me see. All right, organizations. So this is our organization. So let me see our repos. Okay, so these are our repositories for the organization. So this is the test action. So if I go into the action, let me see. Let me open the file itself. So if I show you this workflow, So you can see that in this workflow, for example, this workflow here is using on branches to pull requests. So a pull request is what does this, number one. So this is what I was trying to show you guys earlier, where you have one. So I wanted that to be a push. The branches should be here, and then workflow dispatch. So with this, a pull request automatically initiates this workflow, and a workflow dispatch will also do that immediately. And then there are different kind of jobs. So you can say, I want you to take note of this keyword called uses. So what uses does is that it's not possible for you to be able to create all of the things you need. It's just like in any programming language, you always import modules, you always do something. So GitHub has a definite, like a repository where it stores different actions. So you as an end user, you can come up with a logic that you see that this thing is very needed, and then give that logic. So you write an action, that's a YAML file, and then publish that action for anybody to be able to use it. That's the usage. So I think if I come here and say GitHub actions, let's look for this. If I say GitHub actions, so I'm trying to look for, I think it's GitHub docs. I'm trying to look for, there's a place where they try, but because they are too much, there's no place that comprehensively lists all of them. But for example, one of the most popular used GitHub action is the checkout action. Checkout GitHub action. So if you click on this, you see that this is the GitHub. So this one was created by GitHub itself. So you can see that this is github.com action/checkouts. So this is the action, the checkout action that anybody can use. So with this checkout action, anyone that uses checkout action, you can define what a bit of different you can drop in. These are parameters. So let's when you use checkout action, so you can check out a new repository and then provide the branch where is the branch that you want to check out. So because we know that it is possible when you are working with, for someone that is working on a large code system, all of your code cannot be in one repository. You have some code in some other repositories. So just to show you guys what I was saying, for example, in this test action, if we go into this workflow file and we open this workflow file, in this text action, there's this build. You can see that we use the checkout. So I'm using what actions for checkout. So I'm using actions checkout to check out another repository in our organization. So this is another repository in our organization. This is the core TF infra repository. And then you can see that I'm now even calling, instead of using uses, actions/checkout now. So I wrote a custom action that I can call myself, or any other person in this repository can call. So you can see that this repository is called Imotun.io core CI/CD build bar. If you go to a list of our repository here, and if you go to our repositories and you see core CI/CD, so this is the repository that has this. So in this repository, we're calling the build. Okay, so this is the action.
Sorry, I don't know if I'm the only one. I can only see your browser.
Oh, sorry for that. I forgot to share the tab that I needed to share. So let me share this tab. So can you guys see my tab now? Can you see my screen?
I can see now.
All right, so let me just start from the top once more. So if we go to our list of repositories, we have this test action that I've been showing to you guys. So if we go into this workflow file itself, so I was trying to show you that in this workflow, for example, for this build job, here, you can see that I'm using the checkout that I just showed to you guys on my browser now. So this is where I'm using this checkout. So I'm saying that I want to use this checkout that was created by Google and published. So this is an action that was written in the same YAML syntax and everything, but it was not published for use by anybody. So GitHub was the one that wrote this themselves. So any action that is created by GitHub will have these actions as the prefix / then the name of the action. So I'm saying that I want to check out this repository in our organization. So these are a repository we have in our organization called TF Infra. So I want to check out this particular branch, and I want to use this is because it's a private branch. So since it is private, you need to have a mode of authentication. So this is me using the checkout action, and what this does is that it goes to GitHub repository that I just showed you for this checkout action, and uses the YAML file in that repository to run a checkout. That's basically what this does. So I don't have to start implementing the logic to what to check out for this repository every time I'm writing a repository, because it's almost in every action for a large workflow where you have to check out another repository for whatever it is you want to do. And then I'll show you guys that for this job here, for this step, sorry, you can see that I'm using these keywords. So these uses that I used for this GitHub action, I created a custom action for our words for our organization. So there are some actions that you want to do that they are usable for your organizations. They are custom actions. So you need to be able to write custom actions also, that they don't just work for that repository. Any other repository that has the access can use that action. So you can see here that I'm saying uses what emotum.io, that's the name of the organization, and a core CI/CD branch, and use the build action. The build action is in the main repository. That's what this is using. That's what this line is basically saying. So instead of me saying that go to GitHub Actions branch and pick out the checkout action, go to a branch that is existing in our own organization and pick out the build action existing in the main. So to show you guys this action that I wrote out that we just saw being used here, if you go to our repository, so you can see that when I was using GitHub action for core TF-Infra, this is it, the repository that was being checked out. If we go into this repository here and get into the build folder, so you can see that this thing has main. It also, so when you are going to the build, and you can see now that there's an action here that is not in the .github/workflows/YAML. Why? Because this is a reusable action, and this reusable action can be used by any other organization. So I don't have to put it in that .githubs folder. It is a reusable action that I want any other person to be able to use. So if it is not for organization, if it's a personal stuff, you can publish your action, and just like people create packages and then you can pip install them. So any other person can just use your action that you created. So if you come into this action, so you can see that this is the name of the action, and I define some inputs that, okay, any person that wants to use this action, you have to put all of these inputs, and then this is the logic that this action is doing. So imagine this logic being in that same previous action file. The action file just gets unnecessarily long and it will not be easy to understand and fix. But with this, everything has been broken into different units, because that's the end goal of DevOps as a whole. The general term is to make sure that things are not monolithic. Monolithic is the word that we were using previously for the development, where people were just like having everything together in one workflow. So if a process gets disrupted, every other process to get disrupted. Why? Because all of these processes they are linked together. But now that we are using this kind of methodology, we're making sure that everything is broken into units. It's easier to fix, and it's easier to see where the issue is coming from. Everything leads to a fast development and fast deployment in the end. So is there any other question or something that we have to talk about before the end of today's live coding session? Okay, if there's no other question, then you guys have a wonderful day for the rest of the day. Again, I implore you guys, the deadline, this stage ends next week Tuesday, so try to ensure that you complete your deliverables and you submit your tag along and your quiz. So if you have any question while going through any of the course materials, or if you need more enlightenment, because the course material is definitely not enough to teach everything that is needed for the concepts, we can share more, can talk on the group, and people that have content will share it. I can also drop some links to websites that shed more light on that particular concept that you're working on. So if that will be all, you guys have a wonderful rest of the day, and bye bye for now.